Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How are you doing this Thursday evening?
I'm doing fine. I'm just trying to scratch my brain about what is missing from our rundown.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, I know I was just joking with you beforehand. I didn't add a bunch of things to it, but I mean, we finally did get to see the trailer for Olivia Wilde's movie. Was it
Don't Worry, Darling?
Yeah, from CinemaCon.
Times now.
It was kind of like it was one of those things when I watched it. I was like, it's kind of like Stepford Wives meets some futuristic.
Yeah, meets that.
Yeah.
Meets that. I keep seeing the trailer for the Game of Thrones prequel series.
I haven't seen it. I saw it was released today. I was going to ask you if you did manage to catch it.
I've seen it like twice now. It keeps coming up whenever I'm on YouTube, and I am starting to get a little bit excited. I don't know. There's something about that world where it you back in, you start hearing the names. They're advertising it very well.
Yeah.
But on that note about new shows coming or new movies coming, we do have some cancellations to first talk about because it's official. Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow both have been canceled. No surprise.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. I was wondering if it was going to come before the upfronts and I guess that makes sense for them to do it before the upfronts because you don't want to, whenever you get to the upfronts, you want to share good news. And when they drop new shows and stuff. For example, I did see right before we got on that NBC did pick up the Quantum Leap reboot the series. So you're delivering good things, not like we're ending things at the upfronts. Yeah, assuming that they hadn't canceled it, I figured they would probably announce a renewal with just like this a renewal and this is it. And honestly, I think when the CW comes back to their upfront on May 19th, I think that's what we're going to hear with The Flash. That I think season 9 is going to be a renewal, and it'll either be like they did with Arrow, with a limited amount of episodes, and this will be it for the series.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know if I can do another, even if it's limited episodes of The Flash. Just because I'm just so tired of it. I will check in during a crossover or during the series finale.
Yeah.
But I think I've run my course. It's just, it's not good. It's not good.
I saw what happened and I was just like, okay, I'll catch around it later. But, getting back to, I know we never really watched Legends other than probably with the exception of the crossover episodes. But with Batwoman, there was a lot of things out there and about ratings and all that stuff, and I'm like, no, because there were shows that were lower rated on the CW that got renewed early. Mm-hmm. Nancy Drew comes to mind, and a couple others. I think this is just, we talked about this a couple of weeks where there were reports that there, as far as the DC TV shows, they were gonna keep 2 and let 2 go. And I think, and I tweeted out from our show account earlier this week, there was a pretty good editorial about has the Arrowverse had its run. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it. I think between the sale of the CW, I think and even if that wasn't happening, I think it seems that the types of shows that they are green lighting is to give the new shows a chance. So at this juncture now, I think that they'll definitely be the Gotham Knights, and I think Naomi actually may get a second season now.
Interesting. Well, we shall see. Yeah. Things that are on the horizon, though, we did finally get a Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, full trailer.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. I really am.
When does it premiere again? I always ask you.
Yeah, May 27th. We'll get 2 episodes. Okay. And it's the same weekend as Star Wars Celebration for for folks who like to go to those things. And then, and it's of course Memorial Day weekend, so it's got a long weekend.
How many episodes?
206. It's limited series.
Okay, so just the same amount of time as Moon Knight. Got it.
Yeah. But the other thing too with it is, so they're dropping it on the Friday, but the remaining 4 episodes will drop on Wednesdays.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Well, it's a long weekend, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. But I've been watching. I've almost finished up with Star Wars Rebels, and I think that trailer has hit a lot different for me now that I've watched Rebels, and then if I hadn't watched it before, because like the Inquisitors, the guy with the pale skin, the Sith Lords, and Rava, the Inquisitors were introduced in Rebels,
right?
And with Darth Vader, with the intent to hunt out any Jedi who managed to evade Order 66. So with that deeper, extended, really going into the animated universe and stuff, I think now I'm getting. I think I'll get the payoff in live action, because now I feel like I'm deeper into the Star Wars universe than I was before, and so a lot of those things that I've seen or referenced in the animated universe, which is connected to the live action one as well, I think will land differently, because it had that deeper understanding of some of the things that are going on, and plus Deborah Chow, who directed some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian, is also behind this series as well. So I'm very happy, very looking forward to that, knowing that hopefully it will be well executed. And of course, Ewan and Chris Hayden are back. So yeah, like I said, I'm as far as shows coming up, this is one I'm definitely excited for.
Yeah. Are you excited for the Peacemaker spinoff now that Viola Davis will return as Amanda Waller?
Yeah, I know it'll be a different vibe, because I think James Gunn said it was not going to be as much comedy with it, but I think as much comedy the way they can play it, because it is James Gunn. But I think it'll be a very different type of humor. But just because of the vibe of Amanda Waller's character, I'm not expecting the same type of things we got with Peacemaker. But I think I'm cautiously optimistic about this series and this universe, because I know, thinking back when we discussed the Suicide Squad that led to the spinoff to these. I wasn't too big a fan of that film, but we'll see what happens.
I just don't understand why I would want to know more about the actual spinoff itself. Amanda Waller, like, if it's going to be the Suicide Squad affiliated, then you need to have Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
She's like the consistent point in all of this. So, but we'll see. I mean, going into Peacemaker, he was one of the strengths of the Suicide Squad, which we both agreed against popular opinion about that movie.
Yeah.
But we agree with popular opinion about the show. So I think my excitement will definitely not depend on Amanda Waller, but so much as, okay, who's we're following? What's the story? Yeah. Please don't be the same story that we've seen this time five times this year. We're getting a bit of content overload, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the earliest that this series, I remember James Gunn said he had another, I guess it's the second spinoff of the Suicide Squad film. So, so I guess we won't get one with the rat, but it'll maybe we will. Maybe some of those supporting characters that did survive the movie will show up in this new series. But I will keep an open mind, like I did with Peacemaker, because I did not know what to make of what we were going to get there.
Yeah. definitely. How did you like this week's episode of We Own This City?
Oh, yeah, this like appointment viewing. I mean, it really is. You know, yeah. What were your thoughts?
No, I was just going to say, I just like the way they're telling the story. This can be a very straightforward narrative, but they've decided to really play with time and do flashbacks that inform the present story, but also don't make it so expositional based.
Yeah.
They're holding, I feel like, I know we got a lot more of him in this episode, but they are holding back on John Bernthal. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. Like, they're holding it back. And that's another thing that surprised me, is going into this, I would think, okay, we're going to see a lot of him. And yeah, you do, but you don't really. Like, it's interesting in the way that they left this episode with him in the jail cell.
Yep.
And it's just like you don't have to see him get interrogated. Like you can see what's going on mentally. It's fascinating. But yeah, I'm really in awe of how they are able to take something that they could really tell straightforward. It could be a made-for-TV movie, but instead they're really delving into a lot of perspectives and making a web that is compelling to watch, and you're seeing how and as a viewer you're also curious, okay, so how is everything going to connect? And every episode you get a little bit, but you don't get too much at the same time.
Yeah. You know, because they told her the story this week from both the character that John Bernthal is playing, but as far as you're not going to snitch. She's not going to snitch. And spoiler alert for folks who haven't watched it yet. But when the other police officer who was a part of that task force got in there and was talking to the investigators and sort of just singing like a canary, but then it really built on the things that happened the previous week as far as the with the drug world in Baltimore and how another member of the police department is close with one of the drug lords and then then of course the other agency, how they're doing their investigation and the phone taps and all those things. I mean, it's just such a beautiful tapestry of like I said, using the different time, jumping around in time periods and also but also telling the story from different parts of from the different investigations that are going on, the different players going on, and even whenever we see the civil rights attorney from the U.S. Department of Justice finally get up with the one officer who has a long record of like complaints and stuff, but just continues to get to do his job. Herschel, Officer Herschel, and even has a rap song about him. The
one thing that bothers me about Herschel is he's played by Josh Charles, and I associate Josh Charles with The Good Wife, and so it's really hard for me to see him. I just disassociate him.
I was wondering where I knew him from, and that's where. But you're right.
He was Will on The Good Wife. Good old Will.
Yeah.
No spoiler alert for Will for The Good Wife, but my heart was broken during that show, and I have issues. Like the number of shows that have gone on where I just get I get so angry about, like, The Good Wife is up there for me, Sons of Anarchy is up there for me. I don't know, but yeah. So if you're not watching We Own This City, strongly recommend you to, especially if you have watched The Wire. It just reminds you of what good storytelling there can be.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's talk about.
Yeah, one last thing, but there's another series that I just have to we were joking, I guess,
Winning
a week or two
Time?
ago. Huh?
No,
not Winning Time. I got to catch up. I'm a little behind on Winning Time. I need to get caught up. But there's one that's of local interest, and there was a Netflix series made out of this true crime story as well. The Staircase.
Yeah.
So that has a truly in my backyard of Durham, North Carolina, with the Michael Peterson case. So that's one I probably will check out. I know that's been, speaking of how we were joking about We Own the City was on like everything. HBO has been a series. That's another one that's been promoted heavily on their on the network, on the platform. So that's definitely one I think I'm going to check out as well. I know the local paper was having a compare contrast, talking to one of the lawyers who his lawyer, Michael Peterson's lawyer, like what the show gets right and wrong. So and also comparing contrasting it with the Netflix version too.
Right. Yeah, I've seen trailers for it. I'm curious about it, but we shall see. And as HBO keeps relatively high standards for the content that they deliver. With the finale of Moon Knight, everyone's now questioning, okay, Disney. I hear there's so much mixed reviews about Midnight. On one hand, I hear people love it, totally enjoyed it, think it's up there among the best of the TV shows. I hear on the exact same time, like, what was this? Too many flaws, and I think that the people who liked it, again, I don't think they've ever seen Doom Patrol, which breaks my heart. But if they had, they would have a higher, they would have probably a different perspective. Yep. But I also think that a lot of people are just resting on that 5th episode.
Yeah.
And just, even though the finale, again, just like I was trying to explain last week, totally contradicts the 5th episode. It doesn't make any logical sense. And like, it just, if you're in the psyche of Mark Spector and there's a third personality, he should have showed up then. Like, it bothers me to no end. And then you're supposed to be sad that Steven's gone. But this is a Marvel TV show. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. We said they would undo it. We knew they would undo it. And the third personality, first of all, so I really had a hard time getting through this episode. I did. I don't know if I was tired or
I was doing other stuff during about 20 minutes of it.
It just did not grab me from the get. I was just like, and first thing, as soon as it ended, I like fired off a message to you, and I was like, so I watched Midnight.
Yeah,
and honestly, that's how I feel about this series. It's like, man, it's
so sad because I will remember Oscar Isaac's performance.
Right.
But the story itself, like, oh my God, there are so many episodes. Like, I think I would rewatch the 1st episode, and as much as the 5th episode pisses me off, I also just think the way they told that story is very interesting. Even though I didn't cry or get emotionally caught up in it like everyone else did, but I think that there are aspects, but all of the other 4 episodes, I think is just not good. And it's sad that like you get that caliber of a performance with this story.
Yeah. It was completely, and that's the thing. Because I think, was it the 4th or 5th episode where I was kind of like, oh yeah, it was the 4th. It was the end of the 4th episode because that was right before we went to the full blown asylum episode. And I remember talking to you about it on the podcast here about, yes, now I think I'm finally getting into this thing. And yes, and the fifth episode had its issues, but we both were like, are they going to stick the landing, or is it going to be the same kind of thing with WandaVision, where the fifth episode really is the one that just stands out? And it really was that situation where it was the fifth episode is the one that stood out from the bunch. And I think it's something you just also mentioned that with the rewatch, as you noted, I think part of the problem with this is the way they structured it, because I think the way they unfolded this story got us so much more invested in Steven than Mark.
Yeah.
And then Jake was kind of like, and then I was with you because I was very frustrated with the way they kept teasing the Jake personality, but they hold it off. And even in this episode, I know everybody focuses on the mid credit, but I think we got in it. We in addition to the blackout when they had the transition, to when with the fights in the asylum, we got another moment where we got Jake in story in the asylum, because I noticed, even though I had the subtitles on, but it said Mark, but I was like, that's not Mark, that's Jake.
Right, but what's your point?
So my point is that I think the point that I'm trying to make here is, I think for me, what was part of the problem was I got more invested in Steven throughout this series, and so than I ever did with Mark, and then to your point that we've seen these multiple personalities before, but I think the core, with all, at least like we'll say with Doom Patrol with Jane, whether it's Jane or whether it's any other character, other personalities, I feel like I'm invested with them all, because I feel like they've all gotten opportunities to get fleshed out so more, and I understand their motivations. Mark is kind of like, yeah, we get a little bit, but by the time we get introduced to him in this compressed time, compressed show, I don't feel like we got enough to feel like completely invested in him. At least that personality.
Right. Well, I think the hard thing is that we are introduced to Steven first, so we think he's the primary, but he's not. He's an alt, or I don't know how you define him anymore, but he is the secondary. He's made up. But Mark's supposed to be primary, so it's kind of this weird circumstance where, because we weren't introduced to Mark first, and because we got bits and parts, and he was really viewed more as a negative personality to Steven's positive personality, you felt more empathy towards Steven and felt more like, oh, he's our good guy, he's our main character. But it's really supposed to be Mark. And now you're even like, there's an even broader spectrum where Jake is on the full other side, where Mark is kind of a kind guy, but he's also willing to do what it takes to survive, so to speak. And then Jake is just a full out killer. So you have this like spectrum, which is interesting. And one thing I will say is that people have pointed out about how that reveal of the third personality, or that like final understanding with Khonshu there, Khonshu admitted like he wasn't after Layla, he was after Jake.
Yeah.
So that is interesting to throw that, even though anytime you put Khonshu in a scene, I can't take it seriously.
Yeah.
That's another thing I'm struggling with this entire show is the gods themselves, they look stupid. They just look so not intimidating. They look so bad CGI. It just doesn't work. And I think that is one of the other issues I've had. And then on top of that, we have Harrow, who dies at the end of this episode, supposedly. Supposedly. We don't know.
No, he's gone. He's a goner. They I think, the two bullets that
Harrow, we're talking Marvel, okay?
No, Harrow's gone. He's gone.
No, because Omni in there, whatever. But here's what pisses me off is like he was interesting, but then he's totally stupid. It's one of those classic things. It's like the villain is so cool until that third act, and then he becomes a moron, and just like a plot device for the real villain. Who the real villain is just a talking alligator, and not in the Loki cool way.
Yeah, Marvel. Yeah, they are. I will say here in this phase, thinking about the Eternals and now this, they're having difficulty getting into the spiritual realm with this, and even Shang-Chi a little bit as well.
I prefer Eternals over this.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a toss-up for me right now.
I think I would be more willing to see the Eternals for the new Joker guy. That's about it. I was very interested in his 10 minutes that they showed him but I agree. I think that the new stories, it'll be interesting to see what Miss Marvel does. And how that works, because that will be our second origin new hero, unlike the 3 shows or 4 shows if you count What If that came before Moon Knight, or 5, I don't know how many, which all featured characters we knew. So it's going to be, I wonder where Miss Marvel will land. I have a feeling it's going to land better.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just because I think it's going to be done in the similar vein as Moon Knight. And that's another thing I had a problem with, is it feels like Moon Knight is supposed to be a rated R movie.
Mm-hmm.
And instead we got the Disney version of it with Oscar fucking Isaac. I'm just like, I just saw you in Dune, and you were probably one of the better parts of that movie, and now you're here and you're still surrounded by dust, but it's such different dust going on right now. It's just
I think honestly, that was at the end of the day, that because of the weaknesses of story, and it was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't a paint by numbers kind of story problem. It was just more, I don't know. It was like, I just felt like I don't know if they were trying, I can't say they were trying to do too much.
I think it was a paint by numbers. At the end of the day, every time they would go out of the box, they would very quickly go back into that box and paint it exactly by numbers and do what we expected it to do. They would verge into that interesting territory, but for some reason get scared and take a U-turn, and next thing you know, we got a talking alligator.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And that's just, I don't know if that was by design to try to replicate what Mark and Steven and Jake were feeling in their heads, or it's just like, this is the platform, this is the format that everyone is used to, even though we're telling everyone it's divorced from the rest of the MCU. we're still going to have the MCU story framework to tell us.
Well, you have to if you're going to be on Disney Plus. I mean, I know that they're changing things and all of that, but I feel like the glimpses that you're referring to is what the director and the writer originally set out to do. And then the producers came in and said, no, we need more of this. We need more of the superhero-y thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were two different perspectives, and we got like a negotiated middle ground of a story.
Yeah. I did see though that the director they had planned that Jake end scene. That was planned from the beginning, apparently.
No surprise. Surprise.
Yeah. Just think, I guess they gave themselves an out. So if Oscar did decide to come back for another season, then or they could use the character in the movie, that's the way they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, I will put myself on mute because Will's going to talk about Picard, and I can never get him to stop talking about Star Trek.
No, actually, I have very limited. I have a very few thoughts about Picard.
You have very few thoughts? Like few is 100?
No, yeah, only 25.
Only 25?
Probably less, actually. No, it so Picard. So
can I okay, I will start because you're struggling. Which is I find humorous.
Yeah.
But I will say this movie or this episode reminded me of Lord of the Rings. It felt as though, like the third one, I felt as though their first 20 minutes was the ending, and then we got another ending and another ending and another ending because they had all of these little things.
Yep.
And whoop-de-doo, Rios managed to stay behind because he's found a new home 400 years in the past.
Yeah.
And then that just means that, a trade occurs and Eleanor is back in present day. And guess what? Agnes was the Borg Queen that started this whole thing all. Surprise, said no one ever.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad at this finale.
No, I wasn't mad.
I'm just also, for everything we saw, it makes sense with everything. I do wonder, though, if the writers brought in, like, just one person to write Q dialogue. Like, they only need this writer when Q has something to say, because I felt a little pulled out of the episode when Q went into his monologue about why Picard.
Yeah.
Where's this Shakespearean thing coming from? I don't know.
Well, you know what? Given that you're the non-Star Trek person in the room, that was quite frankly one of the highlights of the episode for me.
Yeah, and
because
it makes sense for you to find it to be a highlight, or for me to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, and the reason why I found it a highlight is because at its core, that relationship between Picard and Q, it has been there from day one, and I really
between them, I saw
it. And I really and now that I've seen, I really wish they had waited to use Q in the third season. Because given that that it's been confirmed that the third season is the swan song for Picard and his crew now, especially now that we've gotten the news that the Next Generation cast, except for Wesley, who did get an appearance in this episode, is back. Q going out and that line, "See you out there," was uttered at the end of the series, when it ended its run on television. Q was the first being that Picard encountered the villain that we got from Encounter at Farpoint in the pilot, and it would have been the perfect bookend if Q died at the end of the series, just to and give Picard this, and I and I'm okay, I get it, it works. Not seeing what they're going to do with the third season to give the crew their proper send off, but so I guess for their story and their arc, I was satisfied with it. I will admit I did when I did see the two of them with that their final talk and Picard giving Q the hug and stuff. I did get a little bit of a lump in my throat from that. I mean, I think just as a fan, that was a very satisfying moment for their relationship, despite all the other things that happen in this episode and in this season.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Wesley back, and again Wesley Crusher was sent off to be a traveler. I guess that was in the 7th season of the show. But so we've been wondering what he's been doing. So they were tying that loose end together. But you're right. There was a lot of that third Return of the King Bob in this episode. The way they had we had 3 endings. And I was really the other thing too with I guess the other problem I had with the episode was how they tried to do this emotional thing with Picard and Talon. With the whole Renee and the doppelganger thing, and then trying to because she looks like Laris, tried to make it play. But the thing that for me when I was watching that, I was just like, all right, now how are they gonna get rid of her body?
Right.
Given that she's a Romulan, so I wasn't even thinking. The emotional thing didn't land for me there. But the Rios thing we called, Rafi and Seven getting back together. I like that. They are definitely they're definitely the ship that everyone that ship definitely needs to get back on off of the choppy seas. Because they have such great chemistry, and they are confirmed to come back for next season. So that's good to know that Seven and Rocky will be a part of season 3. But it did what it needed to do.
Did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
All right, let's head over to Smallville.
Yeah.
So we get a very focused Bizzaro Jonathan story. Essentially, I would sum this up into basically a father versus non-son, brother versus non-brother episode. It was fine. I honestly, when I was watching it, I was engaged, but since it's been 2 days, I don't really remember what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm like, it was just another episode of Lois and Clark.
Yeah, I mean, there were, I think obviously the ending was the big thing with the big Clark reveal to Lana.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
So she's gonna die, right?
No, she's not gonna die. It's actually canon that Lana knows that Clark is Superman.
Well, is she going to tell her daughter? Are we going to have everyone in Smallville know who Superman is by the end of the season?
Well, we're getting the Flash levels of everybody knowing because we have John Henry and his daughter. We have.
Well, we don't have to go through the list.
I know, no, I'm just saying, but I'm just trying to. But now that you bring it up, I was like, yeah, I guess we are getting to that place, aren't we?
Maybe it's just because Naomi had a reveal this week of who she really is to someone, and I'm just like, guys, what happened to secret identities around here? However, I will have to say in this episode, I did appreciate how they took that moral dilemma that we've seen played out time and time again. And they really, like they often do in this show, put it in this position of the family, because we saw how that secret being out there destroyed the Clarks in the other world.
Yep.
While it's been kept here, but it also seems to be causing fractures, mainly because the boys are stupid. They're young. They're dumb.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of come to a head, and Clark decides to reveal himself to Lana. And it was a sweet scene, but again, and Will tells me she's not going to die, but I'm just saying.
No, she's not going to die.
She could. She very well could. That is what the show is missing. The show is missing. Remember way back when Arrowverse started, all of these shows, every first season, there would be an essential character who dies as a sacrifice, like a pivotal moment that, of course, they would bring back later on in the season and make no freaking sense, but whatever. And
that's why, I mean, and you say the key thing there. This show, it goes back to our discussion with Batwoman. We're not in that era. We're not in that Arrowverse anymore.
Okay, but that's not a good sign, Will, because the shows that are coming out of this new Arrowverse are not the best.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's where this show is running on all cylinders. It's probably my favorite show on the CW at the moment. But I will say there hasn't been very much loss. You know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I I guess I'm trying to think as far as like
the Clark family themselves.
Right. I mean, there's been challenges. I mean,
I'm not saying there hasn't been challenges. I'm not saying there hasn't been pain. I'm just saying loss and the present. And I think they've avoided that with like the whole miscarriage thing that we were informed about, everything that happened with the John Henry Irons character. Like there are, but what about Clark? What about good old Clark? Our main character, like Lana's got to go.
No, I mean, if I were to pick a person to go, where things could, I would to your point, I will look at Kyle.
Yeah.
Or General Ling.
Oh, those are easy. No.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say Kyle, because then it opens the door for Lana and John Henry to get together.
Heartbreak. Oh, I could be on that ship, even though I'm still saying, Lois, you gotta be, you gotta go. I was thinking throughout this episode how interesting it would be if they actually let Bizzaro Jonathan merge with Jonathan, and then the future seasons, that's who we have. We have now Bizzaro Jonathan. Like, I don't know, and a part of me wanted to see that just because I would find that interesting, and like now you're dealing with a kid who technically took away your son, but is your son, like there is still a part, like they could do some very fascinating things, but I also don't like the idea of having two Superboys. So yeah, I can see why they wouldn't go there, but it'd be cool.
Yeah. I hear your point though. I like. They would be interested if they did go, but I think the other Jonathan will probably, the Bizzaro Jonathan will go back to his Bizzaro land.
Oh, I know how this is going to play out, Will. You don't have to spoil it for me.
No,
I'm fully aware. Here's the question you can answer for me.
Yeah.
Where the heck is Lucy?
That's a good question. Because she wasn't part of the people that got ripped apart going over in the Bizzaro world.
Yeah. She's not, she did what she was supposed to, got Allie to the other side. You would think she would follow Allie to the other side, but it didn't look like she was there. No. So at what point is she going to go, and get what she's been wanting this whole time. And also, how is it that Clark, like in an instant back in Smallville, and yet the other people who are wanting to merge, they're not, like, it's been a few days now. Like, where are they? Why are they taking their time so much? I don't know. Well, I guess they kind of did explain that because time moves differently over there.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because it was 30 days back for us. Yeah, so they did explain that. They did explain that. Yeah.
But it just is it's just like, I'm like, really? You're just gonna, and then you send Lana through, but no one else? Like, is this a one person at a time?
maybe that's the thing. I mean, maybe it is
but when they were going over there, they weren't going one person at a time.
Maybe that's why they all got ripped up, and then Anderson managed to make it.
Yeah. I just had some questions about some of the stuff going on. I did like that idea that surprisingly I hadn't thought about, that John Henry Irons did, is that, you know, we don't have to focus on destroying Allie. We just have to focus on keeping her out. So another thing they could do, they could shut that door, leaving Bizzaro Jonathan still in Smallville.
Well, here's where your death may come. Since his powers diminish with the yellow sun, then that maybe Jordan will be forced to kill him. Because Jordan pretty much once Jordan got his groove, he pretty much beat him to a pulp.
I would love for Jordan to kill somebody, and then like Clark can refocus his anger towards that son rather than his normal son.
Yeah. Or yeah, there's that for one. And two, well, also to get, because here's Jordan is starting to fall into the mopey teen trope, that lovesick teen trope, that they need to wrap that Jordan Sarah line up, because it is starting to wear on me a little bit.
They never know what to do with Jordan.
Yeah.
It amazes me how much, like, he's definitely been better this season than he was first season.
Yeah.
But I've always leaned more into what's going on with Jonathan than I have with Jordan.
Yeah.
So I see what you're getting at. And I completely agree. Like, they need to do some more interesting, but I also feel like they're kind of handcuffed because he's the one with powers. So we're kind of seeing his coming of age story as a superhero, so that we get more tropey things happening there.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know if they'll go there, but if let's say, for argument's sake, he does get into another fight with Bizzaro Jonathan and ends up killing Bizzaro Jonathan. And I think, just and given the backstory of, like, what we've seen with John Henry's world, where Superman have, like, killed Doppelganger Lois, and where Doppelganger Superman did that, and having that, to your point about the tragedy and the loss or whatever. I mean, that could really like give another level to this show. I don't know if they'll go there, but as far as, like, the exploration of superpowers and responsibilities, and having to keep, and this whole dynamic that they with having powers, and them being exercised in a way that ends up harming someone, and Jordan having to come to grips with that. I mean, that would be I would really be interested in seeing how they tackle that.
Yeah. But Bizzaro Jonathan is going to stay in Smallville. We're going to see him third season. I don't know why. Then he's going to allow my love triangle that I still think that they're going to do to happen. Because he was giving Sarah the look.
He was definitely giving Sarah the look. He definitely was.
So interesting. And I noticed there wasn't a Sarah over in the other world, which would make sense. But then again, Yeah. For a moment, I was like, did I miss something in last week's episode? Was Sarah there, and was she the girl? No, she wasn't.
No, she wasn't. Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, yeah, because as I was watching episodes, like we've seen everyone but Sarah, Bizzaro Sarah, and Bizzaro, what's her name? Sophie, the Lois counterpart. No, actually, we did see the other.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like Lois's counterpart. We saw Bizzaro Lois. No,
we saw Bizzaro Lois, but Lois's coworker. We did see her.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, we did see her because she was the one, I guess, one of the reporters with all the fame and stuff. So yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
You can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, scene_n_nerd. And our website, www.scenennerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome. Good night.